Now the news on BBC One with the time at 10 o'clock.
David Steele gets a big welcome from the SDP as the parties reaffirm their alliance. The Land's End drowning tragedy, parents say the compensation offer is an insult. Britain's riders make a clean sweep in the European Championships at Burley. And Alain Prost pulls further ahead in the World Drivers' Championship. The Social Democrats have given a warm welcome to the Liberal Party leader David Steele at their Torquay conference. His speech brought his alliance partners to their feet. Mr. Steele dismissed the subject of the leaked Liberal memo in which his advisor, William Wallace, had complained about disagreements within the SDP. Mr. Steele said he hadn't paid much attention to it. Instead, the message was unity within the alliance as a whole.
The Social Democrats, like the Liberals, rely even more than the larger parties on their annual conferences as a unique chance to get their message across. No picture opportunity is too much trouble. No stunt too improbable, as when young Social Democrats today invested a local landmark called Thatcher Point. This year, the two-franc memorandum that David Steele received in June from William Wallace about relations between the two parties spoiled the show. But the two party leaders acted quickly to poo-poo the whole affair.
I think it was an expression of discontent among a minority in certainly my party, and David can speak for his, but it is a minority. And in the case of that particular paper, which is some months old, when I saw it, I said that I didn't wish to see it further discussed, and it wasn't by me at any stage.
I think it's a storm in the teacup. If it had not been for the fact that we were at a conference and everybody is interested in us and concentrating on us, I don't think, quite honestly, it would have made fifth page in most newspapers, if that.
The alliance does suffer strains. David Owen thinks the Liberals are too anarchic and shirk hard decisions, but he knows David Steele has a tough job controlling them. Many Liberals find David Owen willful and stubborn. But in the conference, bonhomie was unconfined as the Liberal leader delivered a call for unity.
If, as is the case, David Owen and I have been working in growing mutual confidence over this last year, regularly hundreds of miles and sometimes continents apart, with all the strains and stresses and irritations we have to endure, surely it isn't surprising to find that the vast majority of our members throughout the country are doing exactly the same. Our enemies will be constantly out to divide us, and we must provide them with no opportunities to do so.
The parties are gradually growing closer. They'll issue no separate policies next year, and already joint teams are working on thorny subjects like defence and the economy. The joint leadership seems set in concrete, though some leading Liberals still think they ought to choose one man before an election.
The Labour Party has accused the Prime Minister of toadying to President Reagan. Labour's defence spokesman Denzil Davis said a letter she wrote asking President Reagan to award part of a multi-million-pound defence contract to Britain and not to France was shaming. Mrs Thatcher wants a consortium including Plessy to win the defence contract, the largest the Americans have ever offered a foreign company. And the Defence Secretary, Michael Heseltine, has been inspecting some of the 65,000 troops taking part in Operation Brave Defender. It's the biggest military exercise in Britain since the war.
Accompanied by service chiefs, Mr Heseltine arrived at Key Point 504, otherwise known as the fuelling depot at RAF Northolt. Outside, CND kept vigil in protest against what they see as a provocative, sinister and unnecessary exercise. Inside, weekend soldiers from the newly formed Home Service Force kept watch for intruders, two of whom arrived right on cue for a staged incident. Not all the battles have been won so easily. The HSF were completely fooled yesterday by an SAS microlight plane, which dropped a smoke bomb by the control tower. But the Defence Secretary seemed pleased by what he sees as a cheap but effective form of emergency defence. And he dismissed claims that the government plans to use sweeping new powers in any future crisis.
Every government, all the time, updates the sort of steps that they would have to ask Parliament to approve if we move to a war situation. There's nothing special about that, and new in that. We did it in the last war, for example. There's a continuing need to update what powers you might need, but the idea that there's anything sinister in it, or that it's something new or special, is just one of those examples of people trying to undermine our defence commitment.
This afternoon, the Home Service force pulled out, to be replaced by new army recruits still under training. The exercise will end on Thursday.
The parents of 4 boys drowned on a school outing to Land's End have angrily rejected the amount of compensation they were offered. They said £3,500 for each child offered by Buckinghamshire County Council is an insult. One of the parents, Bob Lambden, said he thought the council should be taken to the cleaners. A more realistic sum would be £1, £2 or £3 million for each child. The 4 boys from Stoke Poges Middle School were swept to their death at Land's End last May. Buckinghamshire County Council's own inquiry into their deaths goes into its 4th day tomorrow. In Dorset, 2 people died when their light plane crashed in woods near Poole. 4 others, members of Dorset Parachute Club, bailed out safely when the plane got into trouble. And near Stratford-on-Avon, 2 people were killed when their plane crashed after taking part in an aerobatic display at a local airfield. There's a pollution alert on the River Severn in Shropshire tonight after thousands of fish were found dead. The cause was a leak of farm effluent containing highly toxic chemicals. Birmingham and Wolverhampton water supplies coming from the Severn are being monitored. An hotel near Hindhead in Surrey is still sealed off after an incident last night in which 9 people had to be taken to hospital after being affected by gas. It happened at the Devil's Punch Bowl Hotel, and 150 people were forced to leave the hotel. It's not known what the gas was. Tests are now being carried out. This follows a number of similar incidents around the country during the past week. Pope John Paul II has left for Rome at the end of his visit to Liechtenstein. The Pope's 28th foreign trip lasted only 10 hours. Most Liechtensteiners are Catholic, but church-going isn't popular. The Principality's ruler, Franz Josef, welcomed the Pope. Liechtenstein's 42 police were reinforced by men from Austria and Switzerland. At an open-air mass, John Paul condemned abortion and said, "Money can be dangerous. Liechtensteiners are the richest people in Europe." President Botha has warned South African businessmen not to have talks with the outlawed African National Congress. Many business leaders have been pressing for reforms to halt the run on the rand. They may still go ahead with the meeting in Zambia later this month. In Nigeria, 2 British aircraft engineers have again appeared in court charged with attempting to steal an aircraft. Kenneth Clark and Angus Patterson have been in prison since May last year. The trial is going ahead in spite of recent remarks from the Foreign Office about improved relations with Nigeria's new military regime. The Foreign Secretary, Sir Geoffrey Howe, is arriving there for talks in 2 days' time. A young Australian girl is doing well after receiving bone marrow from a British donor. Kevin Meads volunteered because he belongs to the same rare group as 7-year-old Elysia Caple. But it will be some weeks before doctors can say if the transplant is a success. Now with news of victories for riders Virginia Holgate and Lester Piggott, a cricket record for Essex and John McEnroe's bid for his first major title for a year, here's Carol Walker.
It's been a lean year by John McEnroe's standards, and he's been on the brink of defeat in the earlier rounds of the United States Open. Just under an hour ago, he began the defence of the title, playing against the Czech Ivan Lendl for a prize of £140,000, and McEnroe began brilliantly. But Lendl fought back when McEnroe seemed to be cruising through the first set. The latest score, McEnroe 6-5 up in the first set. Graham Gooch, who yesterday helped Essex win the NatWest Trophy, today took them to the top of the John Player League with an innings of 171. He did it against Nottinghamshire, the same club that Essex beat at Lord's. With Brian Hardy, Gooch set a new opening partnership of 239 for the Sunday League, and Essex won by 44 runs. Gloucester beat Worcester, Surrey beat Lancashire, Sussex beat Leicester by 7 runs, and Warwickshire beat Kent. 2 Cannon League results. In the First Division, a victory for Forest that takes them 5 places up the table away from the bottom, and a 3-all draw at Lincoln in Division 3. Leicester Piggott and Comanche Run have gained the second victory in the autumn treble that brings a $1 million bonus for the horse's owner. They did it by winning the Phoenix Champion Stakes in Dublin, a race itself worth £400,000.
Racing down inside the last quarter mile, and Comanche Run out in front. He's 3 lengths clear. Damister in second, then Scottish Reel, and they're followed by Bayamon, Helen Street, and then Bob Banquet racing inside the final furlong. Comanche Run has made it all. He's running on really strongly to win this in most impressive style. The favourite Comanche Run storming clear of the Phoenix Champion Stakes. Racing up the line, Leicester Piggott, Comanche Run. The second leg of this $1 million bonus achieved. He's won it well. Bob Banquet second. It's close for third between Damister on the near side of Scottish Reel.
British riders swept the board in the European 3-day event championships at Burghley. In the final day's show jumping, Virginia Holgate and Priceless took the gold medal with a faultless round.
And there we are, Virginia Holgate, the new European champion to add to all those titles she's won in the past. Third time the winner of the Remy Martin Trophy here. What a performance!
Her teammates Lorna Clark and Ian Stark won the silver and bronze medals, and Britain regained the team championship. Alain Prost, driving a McLaren, increased his lead in the Racing Drivers' Championship table by winning the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. Prost's 5th victory of the season was made especially sweet because his only challenger for the world title, Michele Alboreto, had to retire. Nelson Piquet's Brabham was second and Ayrton Senna's Lotus third, so Prost goes 12 points ahead in the drivers' table and McLaren take a 2-point lead over Ferrari in the Manufacturers' Championship.
The Prime Minister, who's been staying at Balmoral, went to church with the royal family this morning. A pipe band and 3,000 people came too. In a car with the Queen, the Princess of Wales, who wore a black and white tartan suit, stole the show yet again, like yesterday when she went to the Highland Games. Mrs. Thatcher and her husband Dennis have been spending the weekend with the Queen during their tour of Scotland. Two teenagers who tried crossing the channel in a toy dinghy have been picked up, told off and sent home. Tonight they're with their families in Essex. Clinton Bailey and Stephen Halesworth put to sea at Dover with the intention of reaching North Africa. They said they'd wanted to see what it was like there.
The dinghy used by the boys was described by the police as being more suitable for a pond than for crossing the channel.
The two boys set out from this beach last night, just as it was getting dark. All they had with them to take to Africa was a can of cold drinks, a flashlight, and their everyday clothes.
They paddled 2 miles out to sea before cold and exhaustion forced them to give in. After drifting for almost 8 hours, a ship spotted them, wet but otherwise unharmed. Dover police have been looking after them for most of the day.
The whole thing was a foolhardy exercise that was undertaken without any forethought whatsoever, and they are, in my opinion, two of the luckiest boys in the world to be alive today.
They left Dover this afternoon with their parents, but they wouldn't talk to reporters about their plans to row to North Africa.
And that's all from the newsroom this weekend. From Carol and me, good night.
Good evening to you. Well, I've got some good news for you and some bad news. The good news is it looks as though this high pressure will push its way up, bringing us something like summer in this coming week. The bad news is for me, really, I'm afraid. I'm working for much of the week, so we'll probably miss it, because by the weekend it looks as though the fine warm weather might well have gone away. Now, this front has got a fair amount of cloud associated with it, and that will bring some rain into these northern parts through tomorrow, but then the fine sunny weather starting to work its way northwards. Let's put a bit of detail on the next 24 hours, and at the moment a good deal of cloud around, but in many central and eastern parts that cloud breaking away as we go through the night, so some mist and fog patches forming there too. In western Scotland, Northern Ireland, cloud thickening up to give some rain by the end of the night, and perhaps a bit of drizzly low cloud and misty weather down western parts of Wales and southwest England too. Fairly mild night down in the south, but quite cold up in the north, although not as cold as I thought earlier, around about 5 Celsius, 41 Fahrenheit. And then tomorrow, many places starting off dry and fairly bright with some sunshine, but rain will push its way over central and northern Scotland, some quite heavy rain, I think, up in the northern part, but the mist and fog clearing over central and eastern parts, a dry day with a good deal of sunshine, quite warm down in the south, but still fairly cold, I'm afraid, in the far north. That's it from me then. Bye-bye.